This is from Kathy. She doesn't tell me where she's from, but she used to live in Colorado. So I'm where she still does or not. Anyway, Kathy writes, very good letter. I specialize in microbiology. UCH, University of Colorado Hospital, Denver, and other places. If there was one thing we understood in microbiology, it was how bacteria and viruses proliferate and how immunity works. Rarely did any of us ever wear a mask in the lab, and rarely did any of us miss a day of work. In other words, we didn't get sick because our immune systems were strong. Yet we worked around every kind of virus and bacteria every day. Fact, my first year at UCH, the story went around the lab that the previous year everyone had been required to take the flu shot. The next year, when I was there, every employee refused the shot, and I learned why. The hospital absentee numbers had been off the charts during the year that the flu shot had been required. Most of the hospital employees came down with the flu after the shot. The following year, the employees refused the flu shot when required to take it and walked out in small groups at a time in an organized protest and won. UCH pulled the policy of requiring flu shots. You see, this is part of the deception that we constantly hear from the mainstream media and from the big pharma fascist Anthony Fauci, who, with all of the Christian love I can muster in my soul, I say, fascist Fauci should be tarred and feathered and run out of the country. And I say that with Christian love. This guy has ruined millions of people's lives. 30+ million jobs have been lost since this stuff began. 30 million. A lot of those are never coming back. People have lost their careers. A lot of people in their colleges and college education. This has devastated young people's college plans. There's millions of college kids that are now trying to figure out what they're going to do for their future education. It's all turned upside down. This has ruined graduations. This has ruined employments that had been planned for months and years. This has set back careers and educational opportunities. The devastation that this has wreaked upon millions and millions of Americans is incalculable. The suffering and the pain over a phony disaster that is nothing but an attempt to destroy the God-given liberties protected in our Constitution and giving power to people that don't have it, testing the will of the American people as to how much they're willing to tolerate in terms of safety versus liberty, and expanding the police state across the country to levels we haven't seen even after 9/11. Fauci and Gates and all these people that are collaborating together have a future in the next world. Mr. Fauci, Mr. Gates, you are not going to enjoy your eternity. That's all I will say. You're not going to enjoy your eternity. And let me give you a sample of the deception. Of course, Dr. Pukacek gave us a great analysis of this in her video. And now, since Dr. Annie made that video, what was it, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago maybe? 4 or 5 weeks ago? Yeah. Now then, there are several doctors around the country that are coming out and saying the same thing she said. She's not alone. Some very credible major doctors in this country are coming out and they're saying the exact same thing. So the momentum in the medical community has shifted, and we're beginning to see more and more people that are in the medical community taking a stand for the truth here. But here's an example. This is a CDC report. Okay, this is dated April 16. Okay, on April 16, the CDC and the media and Fauci and the White House and all these spokespersons were telling the world that the total deaths from COVID in the United States, again, April 16, 2020, they were reporting 54,217 deaths from COVID. 54,217. That was the published report on COVID deaths in the middle of April. When you actually dig into their data, you find the unreported data. And here was the unreported data from CDC on April 16, 2020. Deaths from COVID-19. This is their own data. This is their chart from their website. You got to dig to find this stuff, but you can find it. Deaths from COVID-19, 4/16/2020. 11,356. 11,356. That's 1/5 of the reported deaths. 54,000. So you go over to the next line, and here's what it says. Deaths with pneumonia, influenza, or COVID, 54,217. So these numbers were predicated on people who died having 2 or 3 illnesses, including pneumonia and influenza and COVID. So they could have said they died of pneumonia. They could have said they died of influenza. But they said they died of COVID. They ignored pneumonia, ignored influenza, and included all of those deaths with the COVID death, raising it to 54,217. That's how they manipulate the numbers and exacerbate the fear-mongering based upon faulty manufactured numbers that's created all of this that we've been living with for the last 6 weeks or so. It's all built on faulty, fabricated data.